I want to know where he spent the $75,000 though too. Race 3 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series at Sandown, and Dean Canto was given a 5-place penalty in the last race. The grid for race 3 is an aggregate of the first 2 races, so he'll line up alongside his teammate Carl Reindler back on the 4th row of the grid. But it puts Dale Wood on pole position, Michael Trimble alongside, and then Jonathan Webb and David Reynolds. So some different faces at the front for this last race.
It's all to do with that weather coming down and a few incidences there in race 2.
Tony Evangelou back behind the wheel of the Ant Racing Falcon, an XFPR chassis that Luke Yilden used in the second half of last year's Fujitsu series, and Luke's working on a deal to come back and play at some stage later in the year. He'll drive with Dean Canto for Ford Performance Racing in the Enduros. But race 3, this is the decider. Dale Wood leading the weekend so far on points.
Grid set.
Set for a start at Sandown. They waited a while, but now we get race 3 going, and it's Michael Trimble with the best jump. David Reynolds with an even better one, and he goes down the outside. Steve Owen, 6th on the grid. He's 2nd by the run to the first corner.
Geez, it was very interesting there to see how long the starter held them. He held them a long time.
And Owen's got the lead from 6th to 1st in one straight.
Unbelievable start by Steve Owen, but he needed it.
The championship leader has clear air. Reynolds is 2nd, Trimble's 3rd, Dale Wood, the pole sitter, back to 4th. Then it's Dean Canto. Jay Vernick's next through. People tripping over one another back in the field. In car with Marcus Zukanovich. He's just behind Carl Reindler, just in front of race 2 winner Grant Denyer, but it's Steve Owen with the pace in the ex-Paul Morris Motorsport Commodore. First lap, you'll notice the lighter piece of bitumen. That's where the track is dry. You don't want to stray away from that.
It's pretty much going to be single file here for a few laps for these guys. As soon as anybody deviates from that light grey area on the road, it's going to be horrendously slippery and there's a chance of going off. So I think we'll see status quo.
Lots of straights at Sandown, not too many high-speed corners, so getting tyre temperature is always difficult in the first few laps.
Yeah, especially in these really cool conditions. It might be 14, 15 degrees here, ambient temp, so it's going to take them a while.
Owen, I'm still amazed by that start. I don't remember the last time someone started on the 3rd row of the grid in a V8 supercar race and had the lead at turn 1. A replay here, Jack Perkins off the road at Dandenong Road. Now, they've changed the engine in this car. It had a broken rocker in race 2, and Jack himself had the overalls on, getting in there and helping the team get the job done. Great start from Jay Verdick. The GIO Commodore on the right-hand side of the road really did light up, but anyone on the left, that's not where the cars usually run over the course of a race, so there's a lot more water there ready to catch them out.
Absolutely, and I think really everybody on the right-hand side on the dry line is going to get a better jump, and we've seen that happen. Geez, I feel for Jack Perkins there, 2nd coming into this round in the championship, and he's had a bad weekend.
Look at this, Zukanovich right up on the back of Brett Hobson in the Sydney Star Commodore. This is their spare car. It hasn't been used for 18 months. It's the car that Cam McConville stole that win at Winton on the last lap, and he's just ended up going off through the grass and losing a spot.
Just got into turn 2 there a little bit hot, and we saw him flash across to the left.
Jay Vernick off the road. Jonathan Webb picks up a spot, and he's really drifted back from starting 3rd in this race. Carl Reindler and Jay Verdick on the run down the back straight, and Reindler continuing to come to grips with the Howard Racing Falcon. Has been really solid this weekend. Jonathan Webb off through the grass, and there's further drama. Trimble is around, and he's really stuck up on that exit curb now. The worst thing is he has to wait for the whole field.
Yeah, but it could be a lot worse there for Michael. He could have been stuck in the sand.
Oh, Canto into the side of Wood. This is where it gets really tricky. Canto's got the run. Steve Owen has disappeared out in front. But this is war. Canto, Wood, Webb, and now Carl Reindler up into the mix. And you have to be careful if you want to make a move into turn 1, because you have to go into the wet part of the circuit to do it.
And that's what we just saw from Carl Reindler, who was on the wet side of the road. Oh, here we go. Webby up the inside of Dale. Locks and he's run wide. Just snipped that right front going into turn 2 there. But he's actually come back out in front now. I would be interested to see what happens here. He probably should readdress that.
I guess you could argue he was in front of Wood, but the problem was he was on the grass at the time. But whatever the case is, I'm sure they'll sort it out. But Zekanovic and Jay Verdick have also joined in this pack. And there's damage to the front of Dale Wood's Commodore. You can see there that the spoiler at the front just starting to rub. But it's certainly not at the point of breaking loose.
No, and talking of just seeing it starting to rub, nearly rubbing the back of Jonathan Webb's Falcon there.
And here's the replay. He went for the move on the inside of turn 2. Just locks it up, can't stop the car in time.
On the greasy side of the road, that's always going to happen.
Pops out the other side okay. Back in the day, that was where the old pits were at Sandown, but this is what happened at Trimble, and Wood just got on the inside, but couldn't pull it up in time, and has hit the Global Jet Commodore. And that's another corner where it's wet on the inside and it's low percentage stuff making a move.
Yeah, and that's where the damage on the front of that Dale Wood Commodore has come from. He's making contact with Trimble.
Jay Verdick, Marcus Zekanovic joined in this fight now by Tim Slade. Race 3, plenty of action at Sandown in the Fujitsu V8 Supercars. Back at Sandown, where the final race in round 3 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. Our race leader is Steve Owen in the Tinter Car Commodore. David Reynolds runs in second spot. You can see there, Andrew Jones, the damage on the Dale Wood Commodore. And as that split up and that front spoiler smacks into the ground, it's wearing a hole. And it'll be playing on Dale's mind, I guarantee you. When you're sitting inside the race car like that and you can feel a vibration, but you're not sure exactly where it is, it'll be causing havoc to him mentally. A lot of people ask us about those diagonal bars running across the windscreen, but as a race driver, you're so focused on what's going on, you don't even really notice it, do you? No, and especially for these guys, they'll only have driven these V8 Supercars with that so-called Larry bar in them, so they won't know any difference. Really, you're just focusing on the guy ahead and trying to get by him. Tim Slade in an ex-Perkins Commodore, the car Shane Price used a couple of seasons ago. He got a drive-through in race 2 for that contact with Jay Verdick. They're really bunched up here. A little bit of panel damage. Grant Denyer just behind there and just gets up on the curb and loops the Summit Falcon now. He's in a blind part of the circuit there where they pop out of this chicane at turn 2 and 3. And he's going to have a really difficult time, A, finding a spot in the traffic, and B, doing a flick turn, because these cars don't have the best turning circuit. No, Grant will be in there just waiting for his perfect opportunity to do that flick turn. First gear, loads of revs, and just dump the clutch. Talk about the highs and the lows, the highs of your first V8 win and the low of it, seeing it all spin away. We've just been talking him up from a driver's perspective of how good a job he did in race 2. It's just a small mistake. It was very, very small, but a wet curb, it's so easy to do. Very, very easy. You know, they'll be searching now, these guys. They'll be seeing that it's just drying a little bit offline from people overtaking, and they'll be just searching that little bit for a grip. I'd imagine Grant had thought that the curb was dry enough, but clearly it wasn't. Here's Jonathan Webb. Dale Wood keeping the pressure on. Here's Mark McNally. This team have done a great job to get that car repaired before this round, but just light contact there. No real damage, but it's just damage to the position. And that really sums it up. 1 minute there's cheers and hugs, and the next, drama. Craig shaking his head. Not a good look, is it? Now, Canto, he's third. Reynolds is second, and he's pressuring here. Reynolds makes it pretty easy. Now, in terms of the championship, Reynolds is on target here to jump up to second if he can stay where he is. So he can also finish on the podium for this weekend, and no doubt he knows Canto's got car speed, and it's pretty hard to hold a guy like him off when you just don't have that last bit of pace. Looking at that move of Canto's, it almost, you know, to me looked like Dave Reynolds had said to himself, you know what, I'm happy with where I'm running, I'm just going to let him go, he's got a heap more speed than me, and I'm thinking championship. He's a very cool character, Dave Reynolds, so he'll be playing this calm. He takes the definition of laid back to new extremes, this guy. He's the reigning Carrera Cup champ. They've done just the one test day with this car. He's done some time in the Autobahn HSV car that he'll drive at the Enduro. So he really is looking to just increase his miles in V8 supercars and step it on up as this Fujitsu series continues on. There's 4 rounds to go when we leave Sandown today. And this is the fight. Jonathan Webb, Dale Wood, Carl Reindler. And you can actually hear now that front spoiler starting to chatter on the ground.
We can hear it out here, so could you imagine how noisy that's going to be for Dale Wood inside the car? He'll really, really be thinking about that.
Here's Jack Perkins in the Mack Trucks Commodore, started position 29, right at the back of the field, and he is mowing his way through the opposition.
He'll have good tyres on that car, Jack. He's had a bad run in race 1, a bad run in race 2, so he should have fresh tyres for this race, which is really going to help him. Look at the speed he's got.
Zakanovic under real pressure here from Tim Slade, the Auto Pro Commodore. Slips up the inside, but then goes straight ahead.
Oh, that was a pretty bad mistake there on Marcus's behalf. He just mistimed the over and under as we have a bit of a look from the outside. That's what I mean. He's gone to fire back underneath Timmy Slade to get the run out, but he's just made contact with the back of him.
But the last thing you're expecting there is the car to be going straight, and Damien Assailant does that as he skips through the grass at turn 2 and 3, and Jack Perkins decides to round him up on the outside and now has to finish the move on the run through the S's. His teammate Michael Trimble trying to recover from that incident with Dale Wood a little earlier right here, and Tim Slade's car on the exit of Dandenong Road, so that will be a yellow flag zone. There'll be no passing.
I think Jack's the one here. He's just trying to consolidate his weekend a little bit. He's motoring on as hard as he can. Inside that car, I think mentally he'll be pushing.
3 laps to go in race 3, the checkered flag after the break. On the run home in round 3 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series at Sandown Motor Raceway in Melbourne. And it's all about pressure motor racing. Jonathan Webb still under fire from Dale Wood, and Carl Reindler has shown really impressive pace for a guy who is in only his 3rd start.
You know what is impressive is that bumper bar hanging in there in the front of that Dale Wood car.
Colin Cedars off through the sand at turn 1, and he's going to bring that back onto the circuit if he's not too careful. A lot of it's falling out, but there's some that's retained in there.
What'll happen is he'll jump on the brakes here in a second, and that'll all fire forward. There we go, and it'll spread, and it'll be very, very slippery for the guys that are coming through next.
Here's Denyer, the race 2 winner, had a spin in the early stages of race 3, and he's just trying to pick back a couple of positions because the points pay for the championship right throughout the race finishing order. So he's just trying to pick a few of them off. He's got Jonathan Bykoff in the Turbo Brisbane Falcon just in front, an older model AU car, so he should be able to get by relatively easily.
And Grant's just worked out how good a race win feels and how bad it feels to make a mistake.
Now, Aaron McGill having a drama. This is an ex-Sydney Star Commodore. It was a Gary Rogers chassis that Garth Tander previously raced. He won at Indy with it in 2001, but it's pointing the wrong way this time. Steve Owen, with that marvellous start, has absolutely smashed them in the Tinter Car Commodore. He's on the way to the checkered flag. He leads the championship. He's going to extend the championship lead at Sandown, and he's going to take race 3 in style for Scotty Loadsman's team. Have a look at that margin back to Dean Canto.
Awesome recovery by Steve Owen, and it was all set up by the jump he got off the start line.
David Reynolds home in 3rd for the race. That's good enough to give him another podium result. He's 2nd from 3 rounds, and then that fight between Webb, Wood and Reindler. Let's check out the results behind them. Jay Verdnick and Marcus Zakanovic. Mark McNally, a good recovery for 9th, and Damien Assailant, the young gun in the Fujitsu Ford in the top 10. Jack Perkins, that's a great drive from 29th. He worked his way through to 11th, and David Cedars rounded out the top 20. Plenty of action in round 3 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series, but happy times. 5 race wins, 2 round wins. A great season so far. Steve Owen takes the round in these provisional results. There's some matters still left to be heard after this race.
But it's been a great recovery from Steve Owen.
It's actually probably more satisfying than Adelaide because we got turned around in the second race and had to fight back, and then had to fight back in the last race. So it's pretty satisfying, and we've managed to turn what could have possibly been a fairly average weekend into a winning weekend, so it's great.
We're definitely exceeding our expectations right now, but no, it's been pretty good. I just wanted to be always in the top 5 from the word go, and that's where I have been. And somehow we managed to manufacture a decent result out of poor performance in qualifying.
We had a couple of bad runs during the year, so this one was just about putting the points on the board and having a clean one. That's what we did, so all the boys are very happy.
Let's take a look at the provisional championship positions after round 3. Steve Owen extending the margin. David Reynolds jumps up to 2nd, but one of the big losers, Jack Perkins, has slipped from 2nd back to 5th. Grant Denyer rounding out the top 10 in points. It's been a pretty interesting sort of weekend at Sandown. The Fujitsu series making its first start, and some great racing here this weekend, but that champagne, it tastes so sweet. Can Steve Owen keep it going? Round 4's at Queensland Raceway, and that's Dean Canto's home test circuit. That's on July 18 to 20. Round 6 for the V8 Supercars. It's the Sky City Triple Crown at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin on July 5 and 6. In the meantime, thanks for your company with the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. On behalf of Andrew Jones, I'm Aaron Noonan. We'll see you next time.